the last topic. Yes, we finished the workshop with this. Managing students in class, perhaps one of the most important things that you need to take into account when you're teaching your classes. Managing students in class. So getting and keeping children's attention. This is going to be your priority. This should be your priority, to keep and get children's and the students' attention. Because if you have the students' attention, you can help them with their English. They will get good scores in the exam. And if they are happy, parents will be happy as well. So number one, children have very short attention spans. So what does it mean? It means that you have to make your activities short and change them very often. Agree or disagree with me?
Agree, teacher.
Agree.
Totally agree. Absolutely agree.
Why do you think, why do you agree with me? Why?
For example, the student, I think if you earn the same activity for a long time,
yes,
they'll get boring. Yes, so
yes.
they want to change. They want to move.
Yes.
So it's for me, it's difficult to keep their attention for a long time.
Yeah, for that reason, every 15 minutes, every 12 to 15 minutes, you must change the activity. And we're not talking about children only. We're talking about teenagers and adults as well. You must change the activities. Children and students in general are energetic and need to move. So change the pace of your activities by following games with lots of physical movement, with quieter, less active ones. So of course, you need to use TPR in your classes, but you're not going to use TPR during your whole class, right? I mean, imagine if you use TPR in a 2-hour session. By the time you finish your class, you will be tired and your students will be dead. I mean, literally, of course, right? So there must be a balance between calm activities and interactive activities. During the term, teach the same thing over and over again in as many different ways possible. Of course, again, you cannot do the same thing over and over and over again, right? So you need to twist your activities from time to time. If in the first week of classes, you started with a story and then you finish it with a game, now the next week you can do role play, and then maybe you can use reality. Then the next week you can use flashcards, and then I don't know, like play board games in the classroom. So the idea is to be, you have to make your classes unpredictable, right? If the students have the idea that, I mean, they know what you're going to do. Like, okay, the teacher is going to do this. Now he's going to show me this picture. Now he's going to listen to a song. He's going to make me sing. No, you don't want that to happen. So you need to be unpredictable from time to time as well. And maintain good eye contact with the whole class. Of course, guys. I mean, you need to look nice, friendly, and kind, right? You don't want to be the angry teacher, right? I mean, I know that some of you are disciplined. I'm disciplined. I'm very disciplined with my students, but also you need to be kind and really care for your students. Vary the way you speak. Speak loudly, whisper, and use high or low voice. Do you remember the video of this teacher who was using TPR in his class? Did you pay attention to the tone of his voice? In some cases, he was raising his voice, and in some cases, he was not doing it. So it's very important to change the tone of your voice. Use rise intonation, lower intonation from time to time. Also, use lots of action and mime and exaggerate facial expressions. I'm very good with my facial expressions. I don't know why, but I remember I used to, like move my eyebrows in a very specific way or move my body. So it's very important, guys, to use these in your classes if you want to get and keep the children's attention. Children are tactile, so let them touch, feel, throw, and make things. Take realia and pictures into your class for them to touch. Like I said before, guys, you need your students to touch, feel things. So my recommendation for you is at least once or twice a month, you should bring realia to your classes. Now, if you're a father or a mom, I think it's very easy to find realia with your children's toys. If you're not a mom or a dad, you can use the toys of your nieces or nephews, or you can simply go to Lima downtown and find a lot of toys there. So, but there is no excuse to use realia in your classes. You can also use puppets, not only to keep your children's attention, but also to get them to speak. Yeah, believe it or not, children, most of all children, they pay attention to puppets rather than the teacher. So it happened to me when I started teaching many years ago. I used to use this puppet of a dragon, and it was very difficult for me at the beginning to make my students do what I wanted them to do. But the moment I use my puppets, they obey my orders. They follow my instructions, not to me, to the puppet. So you could use a puppet in your classes as well. You can try. Checking and understanding, very important. Teresa, could you please read the information?
Okay, teacher. Checking understanding. This occurs when the teacher continuously verifies what the students are learning while they are being taught. It's important because it allows the teacher to make instruction decisions during the lesson. It also allows us, teachers, to monitor the students' progress in real time so as not to wait until formal assessment in order to revise, how do you read this one?
Revise.
Revise the lessons.
Revise lessons, yes. Now, like I said before, if you ask the students, do you understand? While some brave students will say no, which is very weird, the majority of the students will say, yes, teacher, we totally understand, don't worry. Either because they think they understand or because they are afraid to be the only ones who don't understand. So like I said before, don't ask this question. If you ask this question to your kids or your students in general, most of the students will say, yes, I understand that. But maybe because they don't want to hurt your feelings, or maybe they are afraid of you. So asking this question is not very effective to check understanding. So what can you do? Well, I'm going to show you what you can do. Don't worry. So depending on the age and level of your students, you might use option questions or concept questions. Option questions examples are, is the boy happy or sad? Can the fish walk or swim? In this way, you can clearly get or see if the students understood or not your lesson. You can use these questions for kindergarten or primary students. Now, if the students are more advanced, like teenagers or adults in basic level, you can use concept questions examples. For example, how does the boy feel? And they would say something like, oh, the boy feels happy. Oh, okay. What can the fish do? Oh, they can swim. Oh, good, good. So in that way, you can see that they understood. Because if you only ask them, do you understand? They will say yes most of the time. So don't ask that simple question. Correction strategies. How do you correct your students' mistakes? You have to be very subtle when you are correcting your students' mistakes. You have to be very careful when you correct your students' mistakes. Let's see, Pamela, could you read information?
Sure. Correcting children is a very important skill that comes with time and practice.
Yes.
A child who is corrected inappropriately can lose confidence, fluency, and the ability to correct himself. He may simply wait for your corrections every time he speaks.
Right. So let me highlight some important ideas here. Correcting students is a very important skill that comes with time and practice. A child who is corrected inappropriately can lose confidence, fluency, and the ability to correct himself. So if you're teaching children, be careful, be really careful with them, please. Don't correct them everything you see or hear. They will lose motivation. And if they lose motivation, they will hate English rather than love English. So be very careful with the things you correct. If you're dealing with an adult, of course, most adults like to be corrected. So yeah, you can go harder on that. But with children, you have to be very careful. So he may simply wait for your corrections every time he speaks. Let me give you more ideas. Only correct the mistakes that are important, depending on what you're teaching. If you're teaching grammar, only correct the grammar mistakes. Don't correct vocabulary mistakes. This is not your focus. Your focus is grammar. Correct grammar mistakes. If you're teaching pronunciation, just correct pronunciation mistakes. Don't correct grammar or vocabulary. It doesn't matter. Just focus on what you're teaching. 2, give the correct form as a natural part of your next sentence, but without drawing your students' attention to the mistake. Yes. And what do you think about this second tip, guys? Agree or disagree? What do you think?
Agree.
Why?
Teacher, for example, when my student go to the board to write a sentence, if they when they do a mistake, for example,
when they make a mistake,
yeah, I try to realize them to understand what is the mistake. Don't say only the answer. The answer is that.
Yes.
The correct answer is that. They have to
Right.
realize why.
Yes. There is a saying, right? Don't give them the fish, teach them how to fish, right? If you give them, sorry, if you correct them on the spot, okay, they will get you, but they will forget what you said. So they need to discover their mistakes. If they can discover where the problem is, the correction will be more memorable, all right? So for example, in number 2, basically they say something like this. Imagine you ask a student this question: how was your vacation? Tell me about your vacation. And they say, oh, on my vacation, I go to Piura. You went to Piura, right? Oh, yes, I went to Piura. You see? So I didn't tell him, no, don't say go, say went. I just gave them the correct form as a natural part of my next sentence. You see that? Let me repeat that again. You ask the student, how was your vacation? Tell me about your last vacation. The student goes, oh, in my last vacation, I go to Piura. And then you reply, oh, so you went to Piura. Oh, yes, teacher, I went to Piura. You see? So you need to make the students realize about their own mistakes. Don't just tell them, no, don't say go, say went. They will say when, but they will forget that the next day. Okay, the next one. Repeat the sentence up to the part where your student made the mistake and let him correct himself. Yes, so here, for example, you can use exaggeration. Like, I mean, using the same example that I showed you before, you can say something like, you go to Piura? You go to Piura? And they say, oops, sorry, I went to Piura. Oh, great. Yes, so I'm repeating the sentence up to the part where the student made a mistake. And you need to use exaggeration too, in order to tell him that he made a mistake. Also, use actions to prompt correct answers, right? Like, for example, you can tell them, you go to Piura, right? So you can use mimes too. Ask students to listen to two versions and let them decide which is correct. So you can say, you go to Piura or you went to Piura on your last vacation? Oh, teacher, I went to Piura. Okay, perfect. You can take what your student has said literally so that he realizes that something is wrong. Well, this is exactly what I said before, right? You can repeat the mistake they made, but use an exaggerated tone of voice. You can say something like, you go to Piura? And they could correct themselves. They could correct themselves like, oh, no, sorry, I went to Piura. Good. So as you can see, there are different ways to correct students' mistake. There's not only one, but different ways. And if you're dealing with children, like I said before, you need to be very careful with the correction. If you're teaching adults, you should ask adults, excuse me, how would you like me to correct your mistakes? Would you like me to be direct, or would you like me to be subtle and maybe give you clues about your mistakes? And they will tell you, okay, oh no, I need you to correct all my mistakes, please. Don't worry, I don't feel bad. Well, now you have the permission of the students to correct the students' mistakes. Well, let's continue with Erica. Erica, can you rate, please, this information?
Okay, teacher. Establishing routines. It is important with young children to have a class routine. Young children have no sense of formal time, but routine helps them to know what to expect and do.
Right. So establishing routines, this works wonders, especially when you're teaching at school, right? It is important with young children to have a class routine. Young children have no sense of formal time, but a routine helps them to know what to expect and do. So in some schools, for example, I know that students have to take lunch at school, right? So it's very important to have a routine for that. Like maybe first go to the bathroom, wash your hands, then make a line to heat your food, then go back to your seats, eat your food, then finish your food. When you finish your food, tables, things like that. Yeah, I mean, to have a good time at school. Beginning the lesson, let's go with Cindy Paredes.
Beginning the lesson. Always begin the lesson with the same routine. Use an activity that will draw the class together and make them realize that their lesson has started. You could use a song, for example. Never start with something new.
Right. So when you're starting your lesson, it's a good idea to start the lesson usually with the same routine, right? Use an activity that will draw the class together and make them realize that the lesson has started. I remember, for example, in my classes, when I used to teach at the university, I always play some music before I started my class. So while I was waiting for my students to join the classroom, I play some music, right? Just to wait that everybody can sit down, is ready to start the lesson. At the school, we used to have this projector. And when my students went to their breaks, and when they back from their breaks, I used to play some soft music too. Because usually when children go to the breaks, they have a lot of energy. Some of them are sweating. They have a lot of energy already, right? So you want to calm them down. So maybe some music there, or maybe playing some videos, funny videos, right? Or maybe some of these videos where you can see relaxing music or some relaxing images like the beach, the forest, things like that can really help. In this case, bring the students their level of energy down a bit. The next one, tidying up. Let's go with Giovanna. Giovanna, please.
Tidying up. It's very important that children learn to look after their things and tidying up after themselves. Always allow some time at the end of the lesson for cleaning up so children learn to be responsible. Have a specific corner, shelves and boxes for different things. Never let your students leave without having put away their things and tidied up the classroom.
Right. This strategy is perfect for schools, right? I mean, I suppose most schools have these different areas where you can, like put your things in order, like your lunch boxes, the files, the books, anything, right? But the idea is to tidy things up, right? Always have a routine, and don't forget what we learned in the first part of the workshop, to use the expressions, the phrases, the questions in English, right? Clear your tables, clean the tables, right? Great. And well, finishing the lesson. Let's go with Milagros.
Okay, finishing the lesson. Always finish the lesson with the same routine so that children realize that the lesson is over. Once at the door, ask each child a question before leaving, or you can ask all the children to sit down and say, people with yellow backpacks can go.
Yes, again, I mean, this is especially for children, right? Once at the door, ask each child a question before leaving. Or you can ask all the children to sit down and say, people with yellow backpacks can go first, or people who are 5 years old can go first, right? Or you can simply ask a question like, give me a fruit that starts with A. Give me a fruit that starts with B, something like that. It's fun. You recycle some vocabulary and yeah, it's good. Perfect. Okay. And the last activity. This is taken from the book Empower. I'm going to write the name. Empower, B1 by Cambridge. Yes, it's one of my favorite books too. And this is meant for adults, people who are between 18 onwards. All right. Yes, it's for adults. The topic, grammar, comparatives and superlatives. Question, how would you teach this lesson? How will you start? How will you finish it? The screenshot of the activities in the chat box. And the question is simple. How would you teach this?
Teacher.
And don't forget, please, to use all the strategies and techniques you learned today. Yes.
Okay. Teacher, maybe I can start asking for adjectives from my students. If they don't know, maybe asking to mention adjectives.
Okay, let's discuss it in groups first, and then
Okay.
we'll collect some ideas. Yeah, join your groups and share as many ideas as you can, guys. The page, the screenshot of the page is in the chat box, and the question too. Join your groups. All right, and that's it. So I want to listen to some of your ideas. How will you teach comparatives and superlatives? Anyone? We have time for one person only. Because we have to give you the present today.
Okay,
Great.
I think I would put a poster of Avengers on the board.
Okay.
And I can ask my students how can they describe them. So, for example, Iron Man is strong. So yeah, I don't know. Some of them, Spider-Man is fast.
Correct. So you can say who is stronger, Iron Man or Spider-Man? Right.
Yeah,
Very
maybe
good.
not. Maybe I can get. I want to know if the previous knowledge, if they know the adjective, and then to introduce a topic, and then I can compare those Avengers.
Yes, I like that. I like that
And
because
then
when
the
you're
superlative is
yes.
the final when they say, okay, who is the strongest? Iron Man.
Yeah, I like that because most students love superheroes, Marvel, DC heroes. I mean, they like that, and yeah, that's perfect. That's a perfect activity. I actually use that in my classes when I teach comparatives and superlatives. And maybe some of you guys, the ones who are in my FCE programs, you saw my slide when I compare Wolverine and Spider-Man. I used those superheroes in one class. I remember that. And my question was, who is faster, Wolverine or Spider-Man? And well, of course, before that, I had to give some features, right? I give features like Spider-Man is runs fast, Wolverine is heavy, or things like that. So based on the features, because not everybody watch animated movies, you can answer the questions. So even if you haven't watched the movies, you can still answer the questions because I give my students the features, right? So I was forgetting that for you, Pamela. It's a very good idea to ask, to give features, characteristics of each superhero, because if you ask them simply, okay, who is taller, Iron Man or Spider-Man? And then in the picture or image, doesn't look well who is taller. So they are pretty much guessing, right? And you don't want them to guess, you want them to be as objective as possible. Okay, and with this activity, we officially finish and wrap up today's workshop. Let me do this, ladies. Give me a second. Yeah, okay. So with this activity, we officially finish the workshop. And my question for you, ladies, is What do you think? Do you like it? Do you find the workshop useful? Can you please give me a thumbs up in the chat box if you found the workshop useful or not? Great. Awesome. Congratulations. I hope that you learned something new today. And if you haven't learned something new, at least that you have we have refreshed your memories on the things that you already know. Great.